Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's a very, very exciting panel that I have here with me. We are going to be talking about upstream transformation. It is really about driving strategic re engagement with exploration portfolios. Given the world we are in, which is marked by so much geopolitical uncertainty, the volatility we are seeing in both oil and gas prices, the narratives around such bearish outlooks for both oil and gas in the kind of coming years for prices. People are talking about oversupply. We, at least at Energy Aspects, we believe the world is facing a significant oil and gas supply crunch potentially in the kind of for oil, particularly towards the end of this decade, for gas in the next decade. And we believe we need at least $550 billion each year just to hold production flat to serve demand, which we continue to think is going to grow. We have seen this massive narrative around energy transition, but that is taking a step back right now. And that has kind of become a bit more realistic around talking about we will need all forms of energy, not just renewables, but also oil and gas, in order to meet the growing demand, which is, for us, it's about 3% on an annual average basis each year for the next 20, 25 years. We have India at the epicenter of that growth, with China slowing down. Of course, we've got Africa, Latin America as well. So we really need to talk about investments. And of course, in this era of energy transition, the investment needs to be in low carbon, high margin projects, whether it be Deepwater and frontier fields or in onshore as well, and what can really create significant opportunities to meet that demand. So I have a fantastic panel with me. I don't need to introduce any of them. You can see who they are. And of course, I'm going to start with Chairman Singh. And we've got William from BP and we've got Haitham from ADNOC as well. Welcome to
Thank
all
you.
of
Thank
you.
you.
Chairman Singh, I am going to start with you. Uh, Firstly, because we are in India. And ONGC is doing some absolutely fantastic things in terms of upstream and exploration. Just tell us a little bit about what are the really exciting projects that ONGC is working on. How do you see the future of oil and gas and the need for keeping investment going?
Thank you, Dr. Sain. And good question and a very linear answer, not complex answer. Because for us, uh, our import dependence figure of oil. For us, whether if it is oil is on Himalayas or on the Everest, if it comes to us through some means, we would welcome it. And basically from energy security point of view, because we can't afford to have the current state continue for long. So exploration, as you see, world over also, NOCs are exploring more. IOCs have enough reserve to develop. So their priority could be development, but NOCs all over the world is kicking very strong on exploration side. So far India is concerned, because in the context of energy security and the fact that we have large sedimentary basin, and out of 3.3 we have roughly 1.7 odd is offshore, and out of 1.7 million square kilometer, roughly 1.32 is around deep water, and out of 1.32, 1 million square kilometer was no go. So what we explored in deep water is, you can say, which was no go area. ONGC has spent and made large efforts to explore deep water. One big campaign came in 2003 to 7, that was known as Sagar Samriddhi. And today you heard Prime Minister saying about Samudra Manthan. ONGC has drilled so far 150 deep water wells. It's not a small number. And 41 developmental wells. So ONGC has drilled roughly 200 wells in deep water. Out of these 90, out of 150, I'm talking about exploratory wells. roughly 90 were drilled in kg. Kg is for every one of us, including Williams Company, is now category 1 basin. What matters most for us today is to explore deep water as much as we can, because onshore, I'm not too sure that, I'm sure that explored, we have been exploring from 1960 ONGC. Last 65 years it has explored. What was completely out of bounds, what I mentioned to you. So our first primary responsibility towards nation, because being a government company, is to explore deep water and then come to conclusion that this way or that way. And that exploration responsibility is on us, and hopefully the resources of country will come together to pull it through. If ONGC can do it, well and good. If it can't, I'm sure the other forces of nature, including government, will will come to our rescue. They will not allow us to die. So this much we know.
But Chairman, if I can ask you, if you can't find it in India because ONGC Videsh is there as well, will you go explore abroad
So,
and bring it in?
so this is one part I clarified to you. Second part is that our first priority is exploration deep water. Second priority, if parallelly, if we can afford something, then it is a producing or near producing asset in the any part of the globe. Exploration, we want to limit it to our country
Sure.
because it is hugely capital intensive, and we can't have resource to which can pay back after 30 years. I can invest in something we can pay back in 1 or 2 years, but definitely not in 30 years. So answer of your question is explore deep in country and keep looking for producing or near producing asset abroad, and then see somewhere where it meets. I hope I answered you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. I think for both William and Hytham, I'd love to get BP and ADNOC's view of what I was talking about, the global energy landscape, and how the two kind of companies see it, and how you guys in your company kind of fitting into that narrative. William, should we start with you?
Yeah, great, Rita. Thanks, and good afternoon to everybody. It's good to be back in Goa again. Can I just use the opportunity to commend Chairman Singh and the ONGC team for a fantastic venue. I heard it was done in record time, and it's very, very high quality, very, very impressive. Both this room here that we're in, but also the lobby, the whole thing. So big
So,
recognition for that.
so tagline could be: we also produce oil.
Well, you're good at executing projects. That's very clear.
Main thing is a whole.
Rita, just I would say, look, to answer your question, your views that you stated up front are very aligned with ours. I think we need all forms of energy. There's been underinvestment over the last, let's say, 5 to 8 years. I think people are being more realistic about the energy transition. It is going to happen. It's just the pace of that transition, the cost of that transition. I think that's coming to the forefront and making people realize that it's going to be slower. And investment is not going to, you don't need to pour all your investment in now and take all the risk now. I think people need to learn. We all have to learn as an industry about the transition, especially some of the newer technologies. And meanwhile, I think the world's also woken up to the fact that energy security is paramount. I mean, we heard that this morning with the opening remarks from the Prime Minister, but also from Dr. Sultan and Mr. Puri. So energy security is paramount, and in that, with a strong demand for oil and gas and all forms of energy, we need to respond to that as a company. So we've actually refocused our strategy. You may have seen that. So we are going to really grow our upstream business, grow the volumes and production, but more importantly, grow the value. It's really about cash flow. It's about returns, making sure that we spend capital wisely, because as industry, capital isn't always spent wisely. So we have to be better at that as an industry and as a company. We're very excited that we want to grow production to between 2.3 to 2.5 million barrels by 2030. We brought on 7 major projects last year. We're going to bring on 8 to 10 more by the end of the decade. Those 8 to 10 will be higher margin barrels. So that's the value equation, higher margin barrels than the current production. So we're trying to increase our margin, increase our returns. We've also had the most successful run of exploration. Now, exploration is a bit like, you know, you have your ups and downs. So we've had our lull where we weren't finding a whole lot, but we've actually had 12 exploration discoveries in a row, culminating in the largest discovery that we've made, which is in Brazil, the Boomerangue field. And we're trying to appraise that right now, but we're very excited about that. So we're playing into that context that you set up very much that way. Our portfolio is balanced between oil and gas. We're about 50% oil, 50% gas. And the last thing I'll say is we're leveraging where we're strong, you know, and playing to our strengths. So incumbent positions that we have in countries where we've been there a long time, how do we find more resources, more opportunities there? And then our big mature oil and gas, whether it be onshore or offshore, leveraging that expertise and saying, how can we deploy that and help other countries or other companies in a partnership arrangement? And we're working with Chairman Singh and his team on Mumbai High, for instance, and helping support the ONGC team about how do we mitigate decline, how do we optimize production. So those are the kind of things we're doing.
I'll come back to you on the India one because BP has been a long-standing partner in India, right? So we'll come back to that. Haitham, if I can ask you about ADNOC, because as Chairman Singh said, NOCs have really, like, especially the last few years when IOCs were under, I should say IECs, I'm always corrected when I say IOCs, they were under a lot of shareholder pressure to kind of do more on the transition side of things. It was NOCs that really stepped up, and they were really taking the frontier for oil and gas in particular. And ADNOC's, I mean, obviously with Exergy, you've kind of really grown that as well. How do you agree with what I was saying and what William said as well in terms of how the energy mix is playing out, and how is ADNOC positioning itself, especially given all the volatility that you see as well?
Maybe first and foremost, I want to as well commend ONGC on the fantastic achievement. I echo William here. I think I come from an ADIPEC environment as technical chair, and I think I see a lot of potential here with the sheer volume, sheer mass, and good quality presentations arranged. So all the best, and I think the future is yours. On the volatility, market volatility issue, I think maybe short-term volatility is clear. However, I want to echo what His Excellency Dr. Sultan in the opening mentioned. Long-term demand is evident, is obvious. Urban developments, aviation doubling in size, data centers, AI data centers, and demand requirements. On data centers specifically, projections say the power requirements for data centers in 2030 would equate to about 150 gigawatts and double that by 2040. To put things into perspective, 150 gigawatts is just about the power capacity of France. That is significant. That's just one wedge of demand centers that are coming up in the demographics. So having that mentioned, long-term demand is clear. 700 million people around the globe today have lack of access of a reliable energy source. So we have no doubt that the demand will grow for oil and gas within that energy mix. But yes, again, to provide reliable, low-cost, low-carbon emission solutions, I think investment is required, not just only in oil and gas, but in all forms of energy. And here is where we're seeking, our support of our partners. XRG is, for example, one initiative towards investing into renewable, low-carbon solutions across the board. With that demand in play, I think, so for ADNOC, for instance, our capital program is about, and this was mentioned by Dr. Sultan as well earlier today, is about $150 billion over the next 5 years. That is huge. However, demand outlooks stand strong at 100 million barrels globally from now until 2040. And to suffice that demand, the existing infrastructure today, including the investments we have at an upstream level, are unfortunately not enough. I think we need to maximize our efforts into investing into oil and gas infrastructure, oil and gas upstream infrastructure, and make sure we're ready so when time comes, we're able to provide that low carbon, low cost, highly reliable barrel that suffices that demand. So, so in short, I think we're set to that plans as ADNOC, and I think we are seeking our partners' support as well to.
I'm glad you mentioned data centers because that was something I was going to bring up because I really believe, having done this for almost 20 years, as an industry, we are terrible at forecasting demand, if I may say so. We have a lot of, agencies that come out, I think, including some majors, have called for peak oil demand since 2020. And we still have oil demand growing. We're about 105 million barrels per day today. And this concept of, oh, we're going to like peak oil, right? First it was peak oil supply, now it's peak oil demand. The reason I don't like the word is because it implies it's this mountain, because you talked about the Himalayas and it's kind of falling. Instead, like even on our outlook, we get to about 110 million barrels per day. But even by 2050, we are 100 million barrels per day. It's like a plateau and a very gradual decline. And the reason I bring up data centers is because if 3 years ago in Goa, nobody would have even mentioned data centers, right? And now it's the biggest thing being talked about globally. Like our numbers are about 85 gigawatts just in the US till 2030. And then globally, it's going to be very similar. Like it's going to be even more than that. So I do want to pivot a little bit to the gas conversation. William, if I can start with you and then to Shem saying, gas has to play such an important role. And we went through this weird phase where people stopped talking about gas. Thanks again. I mean, some part to the IEA kind of saying gas is kind of a forgotten fuel. We don't need it. But the only way, because again, with renewables, you don't like intermittency is a very big issue. So you can't have base load with that. So what's your outlook on gas from BP's point of view? I appreciate a lot of data centers are now going off grid because it's the infrastructure is not there yet. But surely, if we are to serve these data center demand, gas has to be the winner.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong?
No, it's a great question. Yeah, I do remember the same thing. I think 5 years ago or so, I went to a COP, and I said in that COP, gas is a transition fuel, and I got very, very strong pushback that don't say that. It's not transition. It still has emissions, and you need to turn it off, basically. And I think, again, I talked about it earlier. I think that was when everyone believed that transition was going to happen at a much faster pace, and that was way before AI did it, data centers. So I think the world has moved on. I think gas is much more talked about as a much needed fuel, and I think it will stay around, just like oil will stay around. I think gas maybe even more so, just because of what you mentioned, gas into power, and those hyperscalers who previously were very, very keen on getting power because they needed power for even running the cloud. Now with AI, that's exponential demand, exponentially growing demand, and getting that exponential demand through low carbon forms of energy is just not going to work. There's just not sufficient supply. So I think gas-fired power is going to grow. The demand is already growing. I think gas turbine companies who manufacture them, they're on back order for years now. You can't even get a gas turbine if you don't already have arrangements. So I think gas in the near term is going to have to fuel that growth in AI. And putting that aside, I think the Eastern Hemisphere, particularly India and even China, Japan, will continue to draw on the need for gas and LNG. So I think gas demand will be robust. I agree with your view earlier that the next, let's say from now until 2030, there's probably oversupply because you have so many LNG projects coming on. Probably supply is going to outstrip demand, but I think demand will then catch up post 2030. I think will be quite robust.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 200 million tons of new projects. But in terms of BP, you said, you're 50-50. Is that mix going to change, you think, after 2030, more gas, less oil?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We're going to continue because our gas portfolio is very strong right now, but post 2030, it starts to decline. And so we need to find the new fields that backfill those existing fields. And particularly, I'll give you an example in India. You asked about that, but we're operating in the East Coast in the Deepwater with our partner Reliance. We're producing about a BCF a day, about a third of the domestic gas supply into the market. But again, those fields have been very performing extremely well. But we need to backfill them. And one thing we're trying to do with the government now is to unlock discovered resource through building common hub infrastructure. So the one thing about gas is you have to have a value chain approach. You know, it's not like oil. It's not, you have to monetize it. You need infrastructure. And I think common hub infrastructure, which we're working with the government on, and Chairman Singh is also part of that because he has also resources in the area that could be unlocked if there's infrastructure built. Yeah. And so I think that's that next wave of being able to replace and replenish the gas resources.
No, that's very helpful. Chairman Singh, India is obviously pushing gas significantly, right? We've heard that over the last few years. Where do you think, I mean, we know the aspirations, but where do you think we realistically get to? Are you bullish about the prospects of gas production for ONGC in India, or do you think it's going to be more oil? How do you see that mix?
So based on current uh, understanding of the reservoirs and uh, the discoveries and assessment of reserves, uh, gas definitely we are better off in terms of growth in domestic gas production. And but second thing which is more relevant in our case is that our gas is not Henry Hub or Middle East gas, which is almost $2-3. Our gas will come at a price which is definitely much above that.
Yeah.
So in the interim, uh, uh, gas is going to be oversupplied in the world for next 10, 15 years, unlike oil. Because gas horizon is very clear that, but gas has another issue that gas can substitute coal.
Yeah.
So if gas becomes cheaper, gas demand will again go up because people will start substituting coal. It depends on all what happens to the gas price. So for us in near term, if the gas price remains low, a lot of power generation will move to gas because coal is also new coal plants are expensive. And at a particular threshold value of gas, coal-based thermal power plants, new ones, will struggle to justify itself. So now this dilemma of, and our power need will grow fastest in the world. You heard this morning that air conditioning load itself,
Yes.
in our case, is plus also we have data center, but more than data center in India, it will be air conditioning load, which is something that we should worry about from the power point of view. Power, second route, of course, it is we have plenty of coal. We can take it to gasification route, but that technology, cost, economics still is a gray area. So I would say that if the gas prices remain high, a country has no choice. I'll be very frank. Commercially, unless government does some policy intervention, commercially coal will be solution for very long period. How much that I can't say. But if the gas prices tumbles the way people are saying, in that case, our gas demand will go up and coal demand may come down. So it is a trajectory that will largely depend on what happens to gas price in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, and we are expecting, like I was saying, we've got 200 million tons of new projects coming online. So it should be coming off, right? Of course, right now with the weather, gas prices are very high, but that should be a
No, that is a very short term, 5 days.
Phenomena. Exactly.
So winter basically US Henry Hub, what you are seeing is basically because of those extreme winters.
Extreme
So
winters,
that doesn't last.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem of our industry is we either have constipation or diarrhea.
It's true. It's always extremes, right?
Always extreme.
It's always extremes.
Yeah.
It's very true. Haitham, can I ask, because we both William and Chairman Singh talked about partnerships, right, and kind of working together. I've always been amazed, particularly with ADNOC, the Abu Dhabi concession plan you have has been one of very early on, but one of the most successful kind of partnership programs we've seen in upstream. Do you want to talk a little bit about it? Do you guys plan on doing more of that, or are you thinking about changing it?
Good question. Before jumping though to that question, I just want to maybe refer back
Of course.
to the transition fuel backlash
Yes.
William was referring to. I think so. While my colleagues here are speaking about gas being transition, and one phrase really jumped to mind, and this brings us back to the first question. Is this is Secretary Burgum mentioning that there is on top of transition. Well, we are living energy transition as we speak, but on top of energy transition, there is the energy addition part
Yeah.
that needs a lot of attention. So, so coming to that, I think we at ADNOC believe partnerships are core when it comes to that energy addition. I think we need to cooperate and collaborate with partners to ensure best practices and cutting edge technologies are deployed for us to make more commercially available oil and gas. As of date, I think we have 20 plus international companies within the ADNOC portfolio that are partners and are looking to expand as we go. Two things we've done in the recent past is we've conducted the world's largest 3D mega seismic survey, and that has enabled us to identify a lot of prospects and leads across the geographical area of Abu Dhabi. And then post that, we've launched the exploration bid rounds that as well gave us the platform for us to attract additional FDI and additional partners to the country. We've started even seeing partners who are keen into exploring, investing to make some of these prospects commercially attainable and commercially successful. From that, we've managed to declare 7 billion barrels of additional reserve and 7 TCF of gas just last year.
Wow.
So this is a huge achievement, I think, that wouldn't have manifested without the support and cooperation of our partners. Additionally, on top of that, I think a lot of our portfolio is complex. I take, for example, Lower Zakum, in which we are partners with Falcon. And at the heart of that project, there's a bit of complexity. The long-term development calls for a new artificial man-made island. A lot of ERD, long-reach wells, fracking. I don't want to get into technical jargon, but requirements call for technical expertise to be sharp, on point, to make sure we deliver these barrels commercially. On the gas front, Hail and Ghasha is another example. By the way, largest gas FDI, 27 billion. And I think from a development perspective, it's expected to produce about 1.8 BCF by 2030. Fantastic platform for foreign direct investment, fantastic platform for international partners to come in, cooperate. But as well, based on the track record of ADNOC's project delivery, managed to secure a structured financing program of almost $11 billion. So now we have non-oil and gas partners jumping in the wagon, investing, putting their money to expand and meet that growing demand. So all these are just examples of how partnership comes at core in delivering these significant projects.
No, it's a really great success story. Since I have the three of you, and I know I'm conscious, Chairman Singh, you have to leave fairly shortly for yet another meeting in your calendar, but I can't let you three go without, just very briefly before we wrap up, we should talk about technology because we are talking about upstream over here. How has that evolved? I mean, I don't want to necessarily go into jargons of AI, and everybody asks about that, but just briefly, I mean, we can start with Chairman Singh if you want. Like, how are you using technology in newer ways? Is that helping with really challenging basins these days? Just tell us a little bit.
So, you said it. Everything nowadays in the name of technology is AI. And what AI will do and what it will get quantified, still it has not reached that kind of maturity to say that this will bring so much on table. But going back to normal advancement in the technology, which has happened over decade, one area which is obvious, and that is in exploration, seismic data uh, processing and interpretation. That definitely has multiple improvements in past. So whatever mankind has gathered in last 10, 20 years, that is available to you through better processing or reprocessing even, because you have old data, you can reprocess and find something. So that is one part that we should rely on. Second is on reservoir side and all that, where for the particularly producing field, uh, we find that that opportunity exists there too. Like for producing fields, seismic of say OBN and all that is very effective. That is a recent phenomenon. So these things enables you to decide where to invest, what to invest, how much you produce, with with certain amount of definitiveness. So these two areas where we find that is 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 good. And third thing which is technology has brought is efficiency. Efficiency improvement in everybody's company working on all sides. Some have realized more, pushed it hard, realized faster. Some will be forced to adopt sooner or later, because the crude remains at this pressure, and at least medium and high cost producer have no choice but to go in that direction to survive for longer. So these three areas I thought I should mention it to you.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. You guys,
Yeah, I'll add a few points. I mean, for us, it's been a journey. I think the beginning of when we applied technology or digital was first, cleaning up our data, getting all of our data cleaned to a point where it could be democratized. So we had lots of data sitting in little people's spreadsheets that only they knew how to run these models, and if that person was not there, then all would be lost. That sort of opening it up, cleaning the data, getting on one platform, getting in the cloud. That was the first evolution, and then being able to use that data wisely about analytics, data analytics, and trying to optimize our performance. That was stage one. I think stage two now you take that and take it, turbo drive it with AI, and say what can AI now do with a clean data set with some applications already in place. Now let the AI go and optimize rather than the humans then optimizing that data. So
and
that's
really
what we're
big
doing.
data sets
Big,
as
big
well,
data
right?
sets.
That's
So
the
we
thing.
have tons of data, reservoir data, drilling data, all production data, with so much data. Now let AI pour through that now and give it the problem that you want to solve. And particularly, I would just build on what Chairman Singh said. I think we're using AI now to help us with improving imaging for seismic, cutting down the processing time tenfold, using AI for processing the seismic. I think also predictive maintenance, so finding things before they go wrong, before they need to be fixed, and so small fixes rather than big shutdowns and big repairs. And then how do we enhance production, generate value, optimize using digital twins, and let AI run through the digital twin and generate different kinds of outcomes that optimize whatever we want to optimize. So I think that's kind of what we're doing.
I mean, the maintenance point you say is so important. We've seen that in Brazil, for instance, a lot of companies just being able to detect it in advance just
Yeah.
allows them to not have those big downtimes, right? Just,
Yeah, even in drilling now, we're using AI to help us detect kicks. So we're in a difficult well, get AI working alongside the driller, and say, look for patterns, look for things that early detection of potential kick, though, so that we're ready to handle it before it gets out of control.
Haitham, I'm sure ADNOC's doing some amazing stuff this as well.
AI to us is core. Um, I think since day one, AI is here to stay. AI is here to change the way we conduct our business. And to us, is it needs to be a part of, if we plan to remain relevant and resilient, then it needs to be a part of our DNA. I think to us, we've decided to put together a roadmap to become the most AI-enabled energy company in the world, and following what Dr. Sultan mentioned in the opening speech, and then as well William just mentioned, the three main classification of AI deployments, in which data, big data analysis is one of them, predictive maintenance is another, and production. We have almost 200 plus AI use cases hitting these three domains, ranging around, from all the way from HSE to production optimization and even geosteering. But the prominent ones, for example, I would refer to as perhaps the Neuron 5, the deployment of a predictive maintenance tool that, from just simply optimizing downtime, could potentially increase operational efficiency 50%. Now, at the sheer scale of ADNOC's production volumes today, we produce about 4.5 and aiming towards 5 by year end 27. 50% is a lot of production.
Absolutely.
A lot of production. So that sheer value, it demonstrates, is just undeniable. On big data analysis, I mean, the normal progression of country scale 3D seismic program is definitely going to be AI based for us to practically and cost efficiently interpret and make use of that data. Without AI, we would not be able to unlock these prospects and potentials. Now, on production optimization, we have something we call RoboWell that we take a lot of pride in. And the main objective of RoboWell is to control, it's autonomous well control, and basically be able to, in the back end, run production scenarios to maximize objective-based requirements. For example, say we wanted to maximize on condensate production, then it would automatically go control the wells and give you the best production scenario for maximum condensate. All these small tweaks here and there, of course, manifest value, and they translate into a significant upside when it comes to operational efficiency. So in short, I think we're committed to deploying AI. We're committed to pushing this boundary forward, and we're committed to be a supplier of choice with reliable, cost-efficient, low-carbon emission barrels.
Fantastic. So look, we've got 2 minutes. Very, very brief answers to my question. Are you excited about what lies ahead in the next 10 years? Are you bullish, bearish, upstream drilling? I think the biggest takeaway has been really about offshore rather than onshore drilling, seismic, using of AI. 30 seconds for each of you. We'll start with you, Haitham. What's your outlook for upstream?
I am excited. I think the future is still upstream. The renewables are doing a fantastic progress, and there's a lot of advancement on that front. However, oil and gas remain at I would call the base load, the main requirement for our energy mix going forward. And I think it's time now to make that commitment, make these investments, and make sure we're ready for the future.
William?
Yeah, similarly, I'm very bullish, and hence, our change in strategy. I think the industry needs to, like I said, spend capital wisely. I think we need to be better stewards of capital. We need to deliver our projects on time, on budget. We also need to be looking after our emissions, so we continue to produce oil and gas, but we try to do it in the most cost-efficient, capital-efficient, but also in the lowest emission that we can. That will help our upstream business be more resilient. And then the last thing I would say is capability. Just make sure that we don't stop investing in capability, because we did lose a lot of people who didn't want to learn about oil and gas anymore and wanted to go into other industries because of the aura around oil and gas. I think we need to attract those people back, because we need that next generation of capability to come through.
Before I give Chairman Singh the last word, if I had to make you choose one country which you're most excited by, frontier-wise, upstream.
Obviously, where I'm sitting right now. I mean, this is.
I should have said outside of India.
It's pretty hard to not choose India, not just because we're here, but you heard everything that's been said so far. But it's the country that has the fastest GDP growth. It has the massive energy needs and demand, and it has a very supportive policy with the current government supporting investment. You heard the Prime Minister's address today. And it has the skills that I talked about earlier. It has the skills. So it's got the scale, it's got the stability, and it's got the skills.
Chairman Singh, you've got the last word.
So I'm bullish about all forms of energy because ultimately each one is going to calibrate others. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you also, Chairman Singh, for providing this venue. It's such a fantastic achievement by ONGC, as everybody said. Please join me in thanking the panel. We've learned a lot about Upstream. We're very bullish Indian Upstream as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.